Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Anti-Suit Entrepreneur Seminar Series. In this seminar, we're going to be talking about the importance and power of communities, and specifically entrepreneurial focused communities. My name is Chris Lopez. I'm one of the co-authors of the Anti-Suit Entrepreneur book, and co-hosting the seminar with me is Jason Wells, the other co-author of the Anti-Suit Entrepreneur book. So Jason, we're talking about communities in this seminar, and it took me a while to wrap my head around the importance of having a community associated with becoming an entrepreneur and living life on my terms. And I don't know how it was for you when you started out becoming an entrepreneur, but did you link having a community as being part of as a successful step to becoming a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, and first, before I go on, pardon my voice, it's a little scratchy. We had previously canceled a seminar weeks ago because I had travel problems, and I didn't want to cancel another one just because of my voice. But if you can get over the annoying, raspy sound, I'm fine and I'm able to talk. So to answer your question, Chris, I definitely found communities to be something that was critical. You know, if you were to ask me at the beginning, I would have said well, if somebody would have said that to me in the beginning when we started all this, I would have probably thought that they were being touchy-feely. You got to have a community. What the heck does that mean? But, if the analogy that I use now, because it's what I could relate to then when I realized it was important, and what I still can relate to now, for me personally, is sports. Obviously, when you're playing on a team, you've got that support structure, and you've got those people who are, moving towards the same cause, and sometimes it's one of those things where you get stuck and you really don't know what to do, and since you got other people in the group that are moving in the same direction, they can help you. And that's one of the things that I've found beneficial of a community. And then, as I said, thinking of it as a team or like a sports team, that's something that I've found really important for me personally. Does that answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, it does. And it took me a long while to realize that being a part of a community was playing an important role, and even longer for me to appreciate it, as far as getting myself further along in my goals and mentoring and coaching other aspiring entrepreneurs. And this is, I've always had a hard time describing why communities are so important and such an important part of becoming an entrepreneur. There's just synergy that happens when you have people who are, have similar interests and similar goals. Just a very special synergy happens when those people are together and communicating regularly. It seems to bring everyone up a few levels as far as their own goals, their energy. I know as I've gone through my rough times, I've been able to lean on people in community, and they've helped me, and vice versa. And there's been a lot of times where I've just, through a passive manner, I say passive, just talking with people or listening to their conversations, hearing what they're saying or hearing what they're doing has inspired me to go out there and do more, or made me realize, what, I need to stop making such a big deal out of this little speed bump I'm hitting, because this guy's got it way worse and he's making stuff happen. So, what, I need to stop crying myself a river and go out there and do it because it's not getting me anywhere. And so communities have just helped me out tremendously that way. And I cannot think of anyone I know who would not, anyone successful who would say, you know what, communities did not help me get me to where I am today. And so again, I know it's a weird thing to associate with entrepreneurship, or at least it used to be weird. I think that's starting to change right now as I've seen, more websites and Facebook groups out there focusing on it. So I think it's becoming a little bit more mainstream and common. But we really just want to iterate how important being a part of at least one community, and it's a lot of times multiple communities, as you're becoming an entrepreneur. Because working with other people and being around other people who are like-minded is going to make you work harder, is going to bring you up a level, and will help you achieve your goals. And I kind of jump forward here to the next bullet point, or I'm sorry, the next slide of just being around like-minded people. And I don't know if anyone's read this book. It's by Jim Collins called Good to Great. If you haven't read the book, it's one of those few business books that is really worth the read, and you can learn some really good information out of it. And I forget the details, but he and his research team analyzed hundreds, if not thousands, of companies to see, okay, what took an ordinary company and how they become a quote-unquote great company within a 20-year time frame. And he had a pretty good system for measuring what's a good company and what's a great company. And I think it boiled down to there were 20 great companies during the time he was doing his studying it. And one of the main things that made a good company into a great company is what he called having the right people on the bus. And to me, that's very similar, if not the same thing, as being around like-minded people. Because when you're around like-minded people or having the right people on the bus, that's where you've got that community that can cultivate ideas, can cultivate that friendly competition, can make you do more and be more than you would be on your own. So Jason, I'll turn over to you to share your thoughts on the importance of having like-minded people in the community. You there, Jason? Okay, well, yeah, I can't hear you, Jason. So I don't know, we might be having some technical difficulties, so if you can get up back on, Jason, just interrupt me, but I'm going to keep moving forward just for our viewers' time's sake. So a phrase that we came up with, and we talk about this quite a bit in the Anti-Student Entrepreneur book, is a concept that we call of cutting out the cancer. Now, it's a very vivid play on words, and may bring some emotions to people because we all know people have had cancer, and we all know cancer is a horrible.
Can you hear me, Chris?
I can now.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. I was not able to even mute or unmute myself, so it was definitely a technical problem with the Hangout. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted. What I was saying was, you asked about like-minded people. Mm-hmm. What I was trying to say before I realized we were having problems is that I was talking about teams, and obviously teams have that like-minded goal, and so when you're, I guess the analogy you gave from that book was all in the same bus. I mean, that can be a powerful thing, just even in energy. And I'll just give you a great example right now. Whether you're not a sports fan, the NBA Finals right now are going on, and the whole thing is who's going to win, the better team or the team with the best player. And everyone's saying right now that the better team, which is San Antonio, is going to win. But that best player is so good, it's bringing some question in. And so there are those unique situations where somebody is so good that they can turn the tide. That said, that's like such a rare person, a once in a 2 or 3 generation type person. So my point is, if there's a tie or an occasional win for that one person, a team wins every time. And when you have a team of like-minded people working towards the same thing, it's almost a guarantee that you can accomplish something. But it's never a guarantee that you'll find somebody, that one person, who can change the tide for something. Now, I know you moved on to a next subject, Chris, but I just wanted to comment on what you had asked me before we had trouble.
Well, you talking about the NBA Finals made me think of the 1980 Olympic Games with the U.S. hockey team versus the Soviet Union hockey team. Where their hockey team was, I think, undefeated for years and years and years, and just everyone knew they were going to be the people that won. And back then, the U.S., of course, didn't allow professionals, so they didn't allow NHL players in the Olympics. So it was college-age kids at a college never played before. And probably most people have seen the movie Miracle on Ice. If you haven't, it is a great movie that will just a very powerful movie. But that made me think of your analogy, made me think of that, and just how powerful it is of having the right people on the bus or having like-minded people together, and what happens when you do form that team and that community, and the community can really become greater than just that one person and help carry everyone forward to their success.
Well, and he actually cut out the cancer on that team. He cut people that he thought were cancers, some people that maybe weren't cancers but were better players but didn't fit into the like-minded philosophy, like you're saying. I mean, that's a great example you brought up, because that was the epitome of forming a team of like-minded people. And not all of them are necessarily the most talented at their positions. And the coach cut a lot of garbage from people because he didn't take the better player at certain positions.
I'd forgotten about that. I'm glad you remember that. But yeah, that's a perfect example. And so that's moving on to cutting out of the cancer. As I was saying earlier, it's a very vivid play on words we have here, and probably brings up some emotion. Because unfortunately, everyone seems to know someone who has had cancer. And I mean, the story, the cancer starts off real small, and if you catch it early enough, you can usually get rid of it, through different therapies and medications and lifestyle changes. You can cut it out of the body. Well, it's very easy to get caught up when you're with like-minded people or in a community of just, everything's great, and kind of going back to the positivity Kool-Aid from an earlier chapter in the book, and letting a few bad apples in there, even though they may only be 2 bad apples out of 100 people. Well, those 2 bad apples are more than enough to start growing cancer, so to speak, and causing other people to become bad apples, because they drag other people down, or they're going to make other people, they'll cause drama, they'll make other people start complaining, they'll cause issues for other people, and you can turn a great community into a pretty poor one. So one of the things that's helped Jason and I have success, as we've had various communities over the years, is cutting out the people that don't fit. Whether it's because they're just, a rude, negative person, or they have a different agenda, we get rid of them. And sometimes it's tough. Sometimes, it causes, it's no fun for us to have to spend time to kicks someone out of a group. It's emotionally draining on us. It eats away at our productivity for that day or for that week. And at times has cost us, some short-term money to get rid of someone. But all that short-term pain has been far outweighed by the long-term gain and benefits we reap from getting rid of them and keeping the right people on the bus. See anything you want to add on there, Jason, before we move on?
No, I mean, I think we covered this adequately. I just felt like, what that coach did on that hockey team in the 80 for U.S., like that was a perfect example of cutting out the people that were not helpful to the cause at all.
And so something you have to keep in mind, whether you're becoming a part of a community or you're going to step up into a leadership role and create your own, is that you have to have some medium to connect. How are people going to share ideas? And 20 years ago, I think this was more straightforward because we didn't have the internet, or at least the internet wasn't mainstream. Not everyone had cell phones and unlimited calling and texting and emails. It was just, if you really wanted to connect with people, you usually did it face-to-face and sometimes through, newsletters that were mailed out on a monthly basis from from someone in the group updating everyone else. And those were really the main ways, along with some conference calls. Well, now with technology and the internet, there's so many more ways to connect with other like-minded people. And so like most things, this is a double-edged sword where it's great because you can find something that fits your schedule and allows you to connect with other people, but now there's so many, you can get overwhelmed by it. So whether you're leading or joining one, you need to make sure that the community you're with is actually going to work with your schedule. We do a lot of stuff through private Facebook groups now, where we've got 10 or 20 people or even more people in some private Facebook groups. We're able to share ideas, and it works the best because everyone has a Facebook account. Everyone's running around at 100 miles an hour on different schedules, different time zones. A lot of our communities are based internationally, so we got people across 20 different time zones, and it's just almost impossible to get everyone together, even for a conference call or a Google Hangout, let alone getting together face-to-face somewhere at a hotel or a retreat or going to a coffee shop. So we're able to do a lot through Facebook, which has allowed us to stay in touch with a lot of people and allow us to weave it into our daily schedules. So I'll let you speak on this, Jason.
Well, I don't have a lot to add to this. I mean, you covered it pretty solid. I mean, it's the point is here, you got to establish one thing that's going to work for your situation, and try not to get scattered between too many things. That's one of the things that I think people do to become actually inefficient, is they try to manage 5 different types of mediums, and they end up spending more time trying to manage it than the benefit they get from the community. So I don't need to say anything more than that. Just beware of that. And Chris gave you a good example of, for us, one that works for us in that particular situation, which is a private Facebook group.
And I'll let you take this one, Jason, on personality types, because you've done a lot with it, and you've actually put together a training course on communication and sales where you talk about different personality types quite a bit in there as well. So
yeah, and so if you haven't read the book, you may have seen this somewhere, because it's not like this is our idea. I think the way we use it is a little different than what's described out there, but most people have taken a personality test. They've been told where they're at, and it shows itself in many different ways. But what I've always liked to do, because it's resonated with me, and I found it easier to teach for some reason, I don't know why, but I like to think of people as colors. And so, first of all, why would you paint somebody a particular color after talking to them for a while? Because if you're working within a community, or you're working in sales, or something you have to communicate, which is pretty much anything in business, you need to know how to handle certain types of people. And so what Chris and I worked on over the years is understanding who is in front of us, because people respond differently to different things. Now, one thing I want to address, sometimes people think that this is like manipulative, where you're changing your approach from one person to the next. Yeah, you are, but who doesn't? I mean, are you going to talk to your child like you talk to your spouse? Or are you going to talk to your girlfriend like you talk to your buddies? Of course not. You know, you have to talk in what's appropriate in the situation. This is no different. You're just looking at the person in front of you and saying, you know, what shouldn't I do because that might annoy them, and what should I do that will help them? And so if you're trying to sell something, like you start a business and you're trying to sell something, you can see where this would be important. Even as something as simple as you're trying to sell your kid on a concept as a parent, understanding your kid's personality type and focusing on that is something that probably would make parenting a lot easier. And so I'm not a parent. I'm just going on what people have told me that have studied this stuff, that they've actually done this kind of thing, not necessarily in colors or personality types, but they realized the type of person their child was, and they found that certain things worked to get their kid to make the right decisions, just to make them see, you know, this is the right decision to make, as opposed to trying to tell them what to do, which sometimes I've been told you just have to tell them. Parents will always tell me that. But the point is, it's basically learning how to handle people, and I'm not going to get really deep into all the personality types. I'm just going to give you like a brief example, because you can read that from the book, and you know, if you want to know more about it and actually how to implement it into like a communication process, like we talked about in the chapter about building your Rolodex, you can contact our office and we'll get you connected with the appropriate course and information. But basically what there is there's reds, which they're typically they're known as controllers. That can sound bad. It's not. I'm a red. They tend to be the leaders, the CEOs. They're the ones that, you know, don't get in their way. When they make up their mind, they're going to do something, and nothing's going to stop them. They can be very, you know, to the point and dry, and, you know, they're the type of people that will say to you, just get to the point. There are the blues. They're the people that just want to have fun. You know, they don't want to. Basically, what drives them is, if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. And so sales tends to attract a lot of blues, because sales can be a very social business, and so, you know, blues like to socialize. They like to have fun. Then there's yellows. Yellows are the nurturers. They're the people that love to be in groups because they love to help people, whereas the blues like to be in the groups because they want to socialize, and the reds want to run the group. So you're beginning to see, like, you know, how these interrelate. And the yellows can be valuable because they're the people that hold everyone together, and you need that. Now the last is the greens. They're the analyticals. They're the ones that organizes the group. They're the ones that, when you're disorganized or things are not going to plan in the group, they're the ones that are losing their mind. They're wanting to pull out their hair. Now, obviously, we are all a little bit of these, but we are dominant, typically dominant in one and secondary in the other. So if you want to know more about that, read the book. If you want to know a lot more about like building your Rolodex and the communication process that we talked about, and then incorporating these personality types, contact our office at antisuitentrepreneur.com. But that's kind of the Reader's Digest, and all I'm going to say about this is you need to learn this stuff because it'll make your life so much easier, not just in entrepreneurship, but in everything.
Very well said. I could not agree more. And I don't have anything to add to that because I would just be rehashing exactly what you said, Jason. So that will wrap up the seminar for us. We'd like to keep it about 30 minutes, and we're just almost at the 30-minute mark on here. So again, the importance of a community in your entrepreneurship journey is very important. So if you're not already plugged into one, make sure you are. At the very least, be plugged into one. I mean, you can be plugged into multiple ones to get different ideas. Typically, you'll have one or maybe two or three main ones you're with, because those will kind of be your main group of guys, your main group of people you work with. But if you're looking for a community to plug into or a place to start, hey, start with the Anti-Suit one. The goal of our website, the book, and the concept of the Anti-Suit Entrepreneur is to promote entrepreneurship, is to get people thinking about becoming more self-sufficient and not just relying on a job or a paycheck to take care of themselves. So contact our office or get plugged in at antisuitentrepreneur.com. Jason, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, something up there I wrote when I created the slides for this is respect and integrity. That relates to this subject of community because oftentimes people will request information from us, and people from our office will contact you. Like, first of all, if you're not available, return their phone call. That's respect and integrity. If they do call you and they've caught you at a bad time, just politely tell them that. Basically, don't be a jerk. I'm telling you this because, like, people here are here to help you, and if you reach out and ask for help, you need to be ready to receive it. So when somebody calls you, just be respectful, have that integrity, and I promise you, like, when you do that, like, things will happen for you when you operate that way. That's really what entrepreneurs do.
Okay, everyone. Well, thanks for coming out to the seminar. And again, go to antisuitentrepreneur.com and contact our office if you have any questions or want to get plugged into our community. Thanks, and have a great night.